So as I was saying, I created a running list of various like recruitment or volunteer registration platforms that organizers have used to register their volunteers for their upcoming events. So if you're considering choosing like a new platform, this is a great place to start. I'm sure there are people on this call that are currently using certain platforms. At least for American Rivers, we're using WordPress and Google Forms. And WordPress is a part of our website. So that's, and they have a Gravity Forms plugin that we use. And then Google Forms, I use this for obviously organizer discussions and other things. It's free, it's really easy to use, and you can also do like, you can add as many questions as you want, and you can collect emails, and it exports into a spreadsheet. Same with WordPress's Gravity Forms. So here's the list. Does anyone, I guess my first question is, has anyone used any of these platforms or currently using them and really like them?
I've used Google Forms and also used our website.
Oh, Katie?
Yeah, we used to use Eventbrite, but we for this year, for our first year using this, we started with Mobile Cause, and the difference between that and Eventbrite is that Mobile Cause has a fundraising application, and when we use Eventbrite, it's pretty much like separate from any other fundraising platform that we used in the past. And of course, Eventbrite was only used for registration. But with Mobile Cause, we're able to have people to register and also donate if they would like. And we're also able to like see our fundraising like much more streamlined on Mobile Cause. So yeah, that's what we're using this year.
Great, thank you for sharing, Katie. Has anyone used any of these forms and did not have that great of experience, or they were like, it's not that awesome? Maybe there's some issues or some downsides to them?
Madeline, there's some questions in the chat. I haven't used any of those on your list. I have used one called Jotform, and there is a subscription associated with that. It's not free.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I've been using Captain Form, which they have a free version, which is quite limited. So I tried that the first year, and then I decided to buy the 1-year subscription to it, which was $35. So this will be the second year we're actually using that. It's a little difficult to use sometimes, but you can really tailor to whatever you want to put in it.
And that's called Adaptiform?
Now, Captain Form.
Oh, Captain Form.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the chat. Did I spell it right?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess that's one word, Captain Form.
Oh, it's one word. Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, if you're doing a simple form, they have a free version of it that you can do some simple forms with limited fields. So that's how I started with it. Then I bought the subscription to be able to do more with it. So this year I'm hoping to learn more about it when I'm setting it up.
Awesome. And I know with like some of these registrations, some of them like Eventbrite, you can recruit like public volunteers too. Like it's not just like your own, relying on your own supporters to send out or get more volunteers. And so that's like a plus to Eventbrite. And with Google Forms, I usually have to know who the list is of people. So it's like current or recurring volunteers that I would send those to. Jackie?
Madeline? Yeah, as we go along in this conversation, could we differentiate, because it would be helpful to me, between when we're just getting volunteers for a day, like whoever, the general public, like you were just talking about, versus when we're recruiting for ongoing volunteers, and when people are looking for like more of the upper level organizer volunteers, like people that are going to be at the host site, people that are going to go out and get the lunch for everybody. Because we don't have, right now, all we have is those, hey, we're having an event, Joe Public, will you come? And I'm curious if people have had good experiences with those other two classes, the ongoing, we do have some of those, the ongoing volunteers, but then more importantly, those, upper level helpers that are really organizer volunteers. Thank you.
Yeah, like the star volunteers.
Yeah.
Exactly. So is your question around just recruiting them, or with the registration question? I guess you could use them all with like the Google Forms and even WordPress. I've used those to contact the group of people that I know is usually responds, usually like comes to the events, those recurring volunteers that I wouldn't necessarily put in the category of they're going to help lead the cleanup, but I know for sure I can count on them to participate. So that's the list of platforms. I just thought I'd share that since people ask me all the time what are the best platforms to use. I know that everyone has different reasons for why they might use a certain platform. And so I don't know if I necessarily can share pros and cons for all because I haven't used all. But if there is one that you're interested in using and you want some input, you can post on the organizer's Facebook page, or you can email me and I can see if I know anyone in the network that is currently using that platform, and I can connect you with them to see what their insight is before you might commit. So I had several questions, which is great, from the form. And so I thought we'd start with those. So the first one is, when you're planning a cleanup, how do you reach a broad audience, and what are the best times to have a rubber cleanup? So I guess those are two questions. So how do you reach a broad audience? Well, for my experience, I've done so many different things. I've been at the farmers market and recruiting volunteers there. I have contacted schools and got on certain like listservs that I know that go out of opportunities. And so I've had my event always, whenever we'd have an event, I would make sure I knew the deadline that they had before they send out that newsletter. And so that my event could be included. Volunteer match, I've posted a lot and got volunteers for. Anyone else want to share? Universities, schools?
We always use the traditional media
Mhm.
and, our website, Facebook. We put out flyers. We talk to a lot of people, leading up to the cleanup. Just about everybody we talk to, we,
Mhm.
Hit them with a spiel about coming and helping them. We have chimp mail we use, and we send that out to the people that are on our mailing list. And we also send out an invitation to all the other organizations that we know that are in the area, other watershed groups and stuff. So like I said, a lot of our watersheds in New York, and there's a whole bunch of groups up there. So we make sure we send it out through them also. Nothing.
Yeah, Elizabeth, that's a great point. I know several groups that really rely, it's like a huge partnership between several local groups. It doesn't even have to be a
Right.
watershed association. When I lived in Nashville, there was I'm blanking on the name, but they were basically the volunteer group of Nashville. And so they had all these opportunities. And so we would partner with them for some things, and they would also help recruit volunteers. And so that's always a great option.
We, that slipped my mind. Oh, we've gone to some big companies, like I just talked to Home Depot this weekend, and the guy they have for their community service coordinator, or whatever he is, he's like really excited. They have like what they call volunteer teams, and they're all excited about helping us. So that's a good place to get volunteers. Like Walmart, the banks, places like that, sometimes will let their employees have a day off if they go and volunteer for a day.
Mhm. And then some people in the chat, Rebecca said that she's planning to push really hard on all of the event partners to share posts on social media to get the word out to their networks. So if you are asking other people to push it for you, having some like a blurb or a little bit of content that you can just provide them so they can copy and paste, the easier that you make it for them, the easier it is for them to get it out there. And then Kim said she's used Facebook, e-news through MailChimp. They go to community booth events for outreach. I used to go to music festivals and have a booth there and recruit volunteers that way. Amanda uses neighborhood newsletters. Oh, Jackie, Volunteer Match is, I don't know how to describe this. It's basically like a universal like website that you can post events to, and volunteers sign up. It's like one of like the first links. Like if you typed in volunteer opportunities near me, Volunteer Match probably would come up as one of the top searches. And it's free. I think you can post events, as many events as you want. I haven't used it in a few years though, but I used to get at least like a handful of volunteers. But I think it really does depend on where you live. And I think that certain regions of the country are more likely to use those websites than others. I don't know why, but that seems like some reason on why some people get a lot more volunteers than others.
We've also listed on American Canoe Association, your website, of course, and something else, which I can't remember. Another organization, bigger organization website than ours. I'm not sure if we really get any people through those, since nobody ever tells us that, and we don't get like a list through the website or anything, but we always list them because we figured, you might find somebody that way.
So the next question is, what are the best times to have a river cleanup? So we have, I don't know if this is the best time, but the most popular time to have a river cleanup, at least in the network, is mid-March through end of May. And then September and October seem very popular. Obviously, I think that it's Earth Month, and then there's National Public Lands Day is in September. So I think that also gets a lot of people out there. And spring, it's warmer outside. So people are finally wanting to be outside and out of no longer probably have been cooped up in their houses for a few months. And so it's kind of nice to be able to give back. So those are probably the most popular times. I'm not sure whether or not it would be the best time, but if you are looking to have an event, I would look at around those times because that seems to be very popular.
I think that having it early in the year before the vegetation really starts growing is the best time, but like up here, the water's too cold. I mean,
Yeah.
we have an event the third Saturday in May, and it's probably just barely warm enough then to be on the water. But and then we have another one in September, and then, you know, the water temperature is never an issue in September. So
Mhm. The next question is, what are some strategies for making cleanup events feel inclusive and welcoming to all? Well, I spoke to a leader that has founded a disability group, and she gave me some feedback about, she went to a few cleanup events and gave us a few tips on, like, when you're posting about the event, and if you're including pictures, um, maybe not necessarily like post pictures that of people that are only carrying really heavy bags or very large items, because that could be discouraging to those that might not be able to lift that much, but probably could still participate and help pick up the little things, which is just as important. So that was a really interesting tip that I didn't think of before. And then also just being mindful of the landscape on when you are picking a cleanup site. If it is going to be rocky and it's not all the way level and people are going to be going down banks or steep banks, then making sure that that is like known up front and advertising that with the opportunity, because that will also help an individual know whether or not this might be a good event for them. And then also offering events that are on a completely flat surface. And then also there's so many other things than just like participating in the cleanup. They can volunteer to sign people in. They can volunteer to pick up snacks. They can volunteer to give the safety speech or give out prizes at the end, or pick out the prizes if there is any, or recognition. Or they can organize people to pick up the waste after the end of the event. So there's a lot of things. So definitely think outside of the box. And then with like snacks and food, people have allergies. And so making sure that you're offering something, if you are offering food, make sure there's something for everyone. Does anyone else have things to share about strategies that they've done to make their events feel more inclusive and welcoming to all?
I guess we just, in our news release and our website and stuff, we always say, you know, we got all kinds of jobs. So whatever your capabilities, you know, we can find something for you to help with. So, you know, you don't have, you know, there's people that don't want to go on the water. It's like, that's fine. We let them choose. They want to be on the water, they want to be on land. And, you know, that way they know they're not being committed to a canoe when they don't want to be on the water. So they're not afraid to volunteer from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Just adding that one line.
Yeah. I know the first time somebody showed up and said, "Oh, I'm really interested in cleaning up, but I don't want to be on the water." I guess we learned that lesson that day. So.
Anyone else have any other strategies they've used? The next question is cleanup. People are interested in cleanup site host recruitment ideas. So if you have multiple sites that you're cleaning on one day or a part of like a week, usually you don't want to do it all yourself. And so if you need to recruit other people, that's always a huge help. I know that I've recruited people that participated in the cleanup last year, and I know that they're going to be participating this year, so I'll contact them to see if they're interested, and I'll usually send out that like question to or email to those folks before I even send out an invitation to all our supporters or the general public. So I get that kind of lined up first.
I guess I had an idea for a couple other places to get volunteers. One place we've gotten volunteers is adult probation, which is, people have DUIs and things like that. And they need, service time towards their probation. And a lot of times they're very enthusiastic about doing something outdoors instead of something else. But the other place we've gotten people from our county jail, and that's more involved because they have to bring an officer with them and he has to bring them, and it's a lot more structured and restricted. But we have had, on some cleanups, we've had maybe 6 or 8 guys from the jail, and our county's not very big, so, and they're just glad to get out of jail for a day. In fact, when the cleanup comes to an end, they're like, is there anything else we can do so we don't have to go back yet? So some of them have been pretty enthusiastic cleanup people too. I guess colleges, that's one place we've advertised for volunteers. A lot of times the students need some volunteer time, and a cleanup is one way for them to do it.
Mhm.
You just have to watch out for the party animals that come and tie all their canoes together and plan on having a beer party as they float down the river, which has happened.
Wow.
It's like, no, I'm not giving you any letters. You didn't do anything. All you brought back was your own trash.
There is
It's all kinds, right?
yeah, exactly. I don't think Sue is on, but she had they've had their cleanup since 2007, and she said that it seems like they're decreasing numbers over the last few years. And has anyone experienced that, and how have they addressed it?
Yeah, I'd like to say in Peoria, we do lose people. People move away. People get jobs whose schedules don't suit anymore. So I always expect about, when I look at who volunteered over a year, I know 15% of them you're not going to see again, even if they were really good volunteers. So you need to be bringing in at least 15% each year to keep your numbers flat, at least 15, probably more like 30. So it's definitely something you have to continuously work at.
Recruiting like all year long too, not just in recruiting for other events while you're at the event you're at, if that makes sense.
Our hardest time was, we seem to have a pretty good turnout for people that come to clean up, but we have a really hard time getting anybody that actually wants to work on the organizational part.
Mhm.
Like they don't want a responsibility. They just want to show up that day if it's nice and have fun and then go home. So it, we really need a few organizers to help us, but that's much harder to recruit for.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger commitment. I've found that it's not always, but with business leaders, people that if you work with a company and if you can get them out there a few times and then develop that personal relationship with them, you're more likely to not only keep them around, but they're more willing to take on responsibility. Not always, but a lot of the time. And so, but I'm saying like just that's like 2 a year. if you're getting more than that, that's really impressive. And like consistency is really important. And it's tough if you have not just a staff or a volunteer like program that sees a lot of like people coming in and leaving if they're leaving the area. Like I used to live in Nashville and people would move there all the time and they would only stay a year or two and then they would move away. And so trying to keep that and maintain that stability over the course of like 4 or 8 years can be difficult if you live in that type of area.
I think it's important to be able to demonstrate progress as well.
Mhm.
Because if you're just going out and we're cleaning, and then we go back and we're cleaning and we're cleaning,
Yeah.
people burn out. It's like, why are we cleaning stuff? And it's just the same stuff,
Mhm.
even in the same place year after year. So we tried to put together a program called Friends of the New River. And we advocated to get some of the benches removed where people would sit and eat and leave their trash behind. And we're also advocating to get businesses on board to be a friend of the New River, to pay better attention to the trash that they have that backs onto the New River. So they have to try and not overfill it and, order an extra run if that's what they need. So those little things make people feel like, okay, we're beginning to hit the long-term issues and we're not just cleaning.
Mm.
And that can help with burnout, I think.
Yeah, great tips. Thank you, Della. So those are all my questions. Does anyone have any questions about volunteer recruitment or cleanups in general that they want to ask? Or maybe share how you're setting up your April or May events this spring?
I guess one thing that we've added is my husband and I are very avid geocachers. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but and they have an event type called a CITO, which is cash in, trash out. So we've linked the CITO with our spring cleanup to help bring some more people to our cleanup. And because there's a big, they call a mega event, there's a huge event that same day, just an hour away or so, people will go out of their way to come to get our CITO, because one of the challenges is seeing how many different kinds of caches you can get one day.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can get a mega, they can get a regular event, they can get a CITO event, and there's a whole bunch of other things. So, we kind of use that to draw some people in that we know.
Good idea. Let me know how it goes.
Well, 2 years ago we did it,
Okay.
and we had somebody from Finland that came and cleaned up. So they came to the US to go geocaching, and they were coming to this mega event, and they made a point to drive an hour to come over and spend an hour with us on our CITO, and they went and cleaned up a park. So I was really happy.
That's cool.
So that's the farthest anybody's ever come for one of our events.
I was wondering, and I see there's a question in the chat too that I don't really have an answer to, but I was wondering how many people have the same sites every year? Because we have a whole part of our agency that has that situation where they go to the same place year after year and they have super good cooperation, and they always have it at the same time of year. But my communities are smaller, and so I'm like, okay, every time, they want to change it and put it someplace else and all that, and different dates and different things. So I wondered if anybody has that similar situation where they're not doing the same thing each year and they have to sort of reinvent the wheel and contact 9 zillion people every year when they're planning, or is that just unique to us?
We do that sometimes. We do kind of Wango Creek, mostly the Pennsylvania portion of it. Some we do a different piece every year. We've tried to do the whole thing in one year, and then we've cut it down to maybe doing a section each year, because if you clean the same one every year, there isn't much trash to pick up, and people want to see trash being picked up when they volunteer. If they don't see any trash, they're not impressed. They don't want to come back.
Exactly.
So it's weird, you got to have some kind of positive feedback for them. So we kind of rotate our sections of the creek that we do each year. And, because it's not a very long section of creek, we have our their staging areas and all that stuff figured out. So we don't have to refigure that every year. They're like public boat launches that we use. And that helps a lot because we don't have to keep contacting different people. We do have some individuals we contact for drop off locations. You know, if you got a long stretch of river and there's no public access, we'll get a hold of somebody. We know some people along the creek who say, yeah, you can bring it up on my land and you can back right in here and get it. I mean, they're glad to have it picked up. So they're usually glad to let us use their property for that.
Yeah, Jackie, I'm trying to think of other people that have a similar situation as you guys, and you guys are definitely very unique, which is making me think I need to talk to other soil and water groups that we've worked with to see if, just look at their program and see if that's similar to yours. I know that there's a group in Arizona that does smaller cleanups, and they do probably like 25 cleanups, if not more, a year. And but they have, some of them are new locations. I would say about a quarter of them are new locations, and then the other 75% are the same events, and they happen kind of the same time of year every year. And they've really been able to grow that way, because every year on this Friday it's like the Green Friday cleanup, and they host that in, I think it's November or December. And so they've gotten people coming out for that on the regular.
Yeah, that
But
would be
they've all
good.
been small events though too.
Yeah, that sounds more like what we do. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be cool to talk to
Okay.
them.
Yeah, I'll connect you with her. She's awesome.
Yeah, we're always looking for different locations, but it gets a lot more complicated because, you know, you get on these smaller streams. You know, Conewango's not that big to start with, but then you get on the tributaries and they're even smaller, and there aren't any public accesses along a lot of those. So then it becomes more involved to contact landowners to be able to go in and pick up trash and stuff. People really don't want to see people just walking through their backyard. So
Yeah, and you're in a rural area, so people can get very iffy about that.
I know.
Whereas if someone was walking in my backyard, I'd be like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we leave our land open for people, so you know, we wanted people to use it, but
Mhm.
you know, it's just, you know, sometimes I mean, there's people in this county that meet you with a shotgun, so you know, the assessor hates to go out to their house because they come out with a shotgun. I mean, literally. So
Evelyn, do you have any stats on how far trash can travel in a river? Because we have mostly dry rivers that seasonally run. It's hard sell to tell people, well, this can actually make it to the Salt River, which can make it to the Colorado, which can make it to the Baja. Do you have any stats or anything that can show how far trash can travel? Or
I don't, and we've also run into that where trying to quantify what the impact of trash is on our rivers, and like what is like the actual measurable impact, and we've really had a hard time. It's like no one's doing these studies, which is sad, but I think that you might, I don't know, I'm not sure if you would be able to get how far it's traveled by river specifically, but Keep America Beautiful and the Ocean Conservancy might have more stats. With Ocean Conservancy, they do have a trash-free seas program, and I believe they have some stats on trash getting into the ocean, but I don't know how far inland they're kind of have those stats. And then Keep America Beautiful, I think their stats are just across land pretty much, just by community based. But that's where I would recommend looking. And I'll let you know if I find anything. Lillian asked that they recruited using pre-registration, but with like reduced capacity during the pandemic, and then ended up having some sites with many no-shows, even though they were doing reminder and update emails and had on-site incentives, and is inquiring what are some strategies to interact with volunteers ahead of cleanups to hopefully reduce no-shows. I think with no-shows, I always account probably, like, let's say if I have 30 people that sign up, I'm probably expecting 20 people will actually attend, and I just automatically have that in my head. So if I'm like, okay, like I need to recruit this many people or have this many signups ahead of time, if I'm going to expect to have 20 people present that day of, but I've had people where I had 20 people signed up and I thought I was in great shape, and then only 4 people attended. So, and I did everything that you're supposed to do. So those situations do happen. I think that you're doing everything that you can. Does anyone have any tips that they've seen and have been able to turn that around?
We like to send out a reminder ahead of time, maybe a few
Yeah.
days before the cleanup. But, you know, we always expect a certain number are not going to show up.
Mhm.
And the opposite is sometimes you have a beautiful day and you get twice as many people as you're expecting. So I think one thing we've learned is this is very unpredictable, and you just have to be able to roll with the punches because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And even if it's a nice day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so weird.
It is. It is. It's people are very unpredictable.
Oh,
I
Amanda, she's with Willamette Riverkeeper in Portland, Oregon, and they said they had huge issues with no-shows in the last year.
Yeah, it's
I wonder
harder.
with like
So,
COVID and people getting diagnosed and feeling under the weather, they're being more cautious too at staying home. But I don't know if that accounts for all of them, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think a lot of people are just being super cautious. So, I mean, last year we ran our cleanups. Well, the spring one we ran virtually, which is the first time we ever did that. So that was extra work because we'd never done it before.
Mhm.
And, you know, we had like 26 people participate, and we picked up, you know, a good amount of trash. But that's harder because you don't get to see the people.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's nice to be able to interact with them face to face and thank them for their efforts and things. And, you know, sometimes people register for stuff and then they give you fake emails so you can't get a hold of them, you know, things like that. So I know if I scribble my email, they won't be able to figure out what it is and they won't be able to contact me.
That's what I've learned is like, if I know this doesn't always work for people, but I will actually, if I at the farmer's market, I used to literally look at people writing their stuff, and if I couldn't read it, then I'd be like, hey, can you rewrite this? Or I would literally like ask them to confirm, is this a U or is this a C? Or and I even brought my laptop some years to get people to type in their actual stuff so there's no mistakes. But even with typing with the organizer network, you guys are still misspelling your email. Some of you. Luckily I have it, so I know that it's like that doesn't look right, but it still happens.
Yeah, it still happens no matter what you do. Like I
Does
said,
anyone have
people,
any other questions?
yeah, will you come and help me organize my cleanup, please?
I'll be in Tampa this Friday.
Well, it's not till May 21st.
So it's not till May 21st.
Plenty of time to plan your trip up.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll be Basking Ridge on the 24th, and so I could hit Pennsylvania while I go to Basking Ridge, New Jersey.
There you go. See?
Well, thank you guys so much. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'm here if you need anything. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.